to this press conference. We are very thankful to all of you that you are here. You know the circumstances in which we meet these days. You know the way in which not just protest, but okay, is this better? Is it better? You know the circumstances in which we meet. You know the ways in which not just protest, but speech itself is being criminalized. And the immediate context in which we meet is the Supreme Court judgment that has, in which the Supreme Court judgment, which has recently the three judge bench has made certain limitations upon protest and defined protest in a certain way. And we are here to say that protest in designated spaces is antithetical to the idea of a democracy. Court-designated protest sites make a mockery of what protest means. Protest is not an exhibition or a spectacle to demonstrate visually how healthy a media is, but protest is meant to bring about change. It is meant to tell the government that a particular policy or law has to be changed for whatever reasons. The protest, it is through such protest that a democracy develops its understanding of and debates differences in the public domain. In the case of the CAA, the protests against which were completely peaceful and non-violent, the only complaint that could be made against the 24-hour dharnas was that they blocked traffic. As we know, this was not true. Only on the day of the Chakka Jam in Northeast Delhi did the protest escalate to the level of blocking traffic, but even that was non-violent civil disobedience, of which in our country there is a long and distinguished history. And it arose from the sense that the government is not taking any protests against the CAA seriously. The Home Minister made it very clear that the law has been passed and it will not be reconsidered. We have to ask ourselves as citizens of this country and of a democracy, is all legislation passed by a parliament sacrosanct? Simply by virtue of being passed, does it attain the status of expressing democratic consensus? No. Not if the law passed violates the basic fundamental rights guaranteed by the Constitution, and the CAA violates the principle of equal citizenship to all. It is an anti-Muslim law, and it expresses the principles espoused by Hindu Rashtra, not by the Republic of India, of which we are citizens. Every person who has been arrested, whether under the Bhima Koregaon banner or under the Northeast Delhi violence banner, is someone who has stood up and defended the Constitution, rule of law, and the constitutional rights of minorities, Adivasis and Dalits. All those named in the infamous Delhi police charge sheet, whether groups or individuals, are those who have conducted fact findings into widespread state violence in Delhi and Uttar Pradesh against Muslims in general, but also individuals like Dr. Kafil and others. In other words, non-violent civil disobedience and standing up for rule of law has been criminalized, and large numbers of journalists, students, teachers, social activists, the vast majority of whom are Muslim, languish in jail. So for the Supreme Court to say that protests against such an unconstitutional legislation and then protests against the incarceration of those who protest must be kept within limits set by the court. In short, that protests must be safely museumized is a parody of democracy. And it's an extremely problematic interpretation by the Supreme Court of what protest means in a democracy and what the value of protest is to a democracy. One final point before I start asking the speakers on our panel to place their thoughts before us. It is time that a very serious fundamental debate started on the police in India. As you know from the Black Lives Matter protest in the USA, one of the demands there, and I'm not saying that should be the demand here, but one of the demands there is the recognition of being over-policed and under-protected. So in other words, the demand is for defunding of police in the USA. And that slogan supports the divesting of funds from police departments and reallocating them to non-policing forms of public safety. Now, I'm not saying defund the police should be our demand, but I am saying we need to start, and we're all saying, all the concerned citizens of Delhi are saying that we need to start a serious conversation in India about what we are to do as a democracy when the police actively work towards criminalizing dissent, concoct wild conspiracy theories that suit the regime in power, which would not stand up and do not stand up for one instant in court. But by the time that happens, people have spent years in jail. I don't need to spell out to you the thousands of such instances that you are very familiar with. What one wonders is, do the senior police stand by these ridiculous and illiterate charge sheets and conspiracy theories, the most recent one that cut and paste from an American website to allege a foreign hand, and they did not even have the sense to eliminate US-specific references? When Sharjeel Imam's books are inspected closely by the police, and the charge sheet then states, and I'm quoting the charge sheet, by reading only such literature and not researching alternative sources, the accused became highly radicalized and religious bigoted. It turns out they're referring to a book, a scholarly academic work by Paul Brass, a well-known political scientist, who wrote on institutionalized systems of riot production after studying a number of communal riots in India. One wonders, did not a single IPS officer speak up? IPS officers, many of them are trained in the social sciences. Many of them have read Paul Brass. They know this is absolute rubbish. How do they face themselves in the mirror? And this is not to even, I'm not even going into here the reprehensible role of the police in the rape and murder of Dalit women in Hathras, in Model Town. It is time to start a discussion on policing in India, not just police reforms, but what happens when the police become the private army of Hindu Rashtra. I will now call upon the next speaker.